Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Bob Power, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you've joined us for today's battery and precious metals presentations. Our next live presentation comes from Century Lithium Corporation, formerly Cypress Development Corporation. Before I introduce our speaker, a few points to note. Please submit your questions in the question box to the left of the slides. If you're interested in scheduling a meeting with Century Lithium, please click on the Meetings tab found on the left navigation bar. You'll be able to view the company's availability and submit a meeting request. On a final note, all of today's presentations will be recorded and available for 24/7 replay. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Spiros Kakos, Vice President, Investor Relations of Century Lithium Corporation, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol CYDVF and on the TSXV under the symbol LCE. Welcome, Spiros.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. As Bob said, my name is Spiros Kakos. I'm the Vice President of Investor Relations with Century Lithium. The company was, just as many people know, but if you don't know, we used to be called Cypress Development, and it was just at the end of January 30th, that we changed our name to Century Lithium to kind of better reflect who we are and what we do. We're just talking on the background here earlier. If you don't know the logo, the C is obviously for Century. The mountains represent Nevada, the mountains of Nevada. And then if you're looking at it carefully, you'll see it almost looks like an electrical bolt just to show the power, like the energy that exists in Nevada. So kind of giving you a little bit of a background of why we chose that symbol. Just moving forward, who's Century Lithium? Well, what makes us a little bit different than everybody else? Well, kind of the key things is that we are an advanced stage project. We are the third most advanced claystone project in the state of Nevada. Our pre-feasibility study in the past, so we did in 2021, showed us we had a 40-year mine life. Again, very favorable location, mining jurisdiction. Nevada, you can't beat probably the best mining jurisdiction in the world. And currently we're completing we're on target to complete our feasibility study, which is, like I said, is supposed to be completed by sometime in the end of Q2, in the first half of the year. The technology that we use to extract the lithium from the claystone is we use a chlor-alkali process, which is kind of an ion exchange. So it's a very simple way of extracting it, and so far from the DLE aspect, we've been working with Koch Engineering and had achieved about 99.5% recovery, which is really phenomenal. I've got more to say about Koch later on in my presentation. Water permits, it's Nevada, so it's central Nevada, Esmeralda County, so it's going to be very hot, very flat, very dry. So having a water permit is essential. I need to point out that this is not drinkable water that we're talking about. We're not looking to take water away from farms or communities. This is natural brine water that we're going to be using. We have a water permit in place, which we achieved in December of 2021. And last but not least, we have already achieved enhanced battery grade lithium carbonate. We produced that in Vancouver with a company called Saltworks, and achieved 99.94% of the 3 nines. And some people say, well, what's this enhanced? This is just a promotional name that you're using? No, it's actually a real technical definition. 99.5% purity is battery grade. That's what you can use for electric vehicles and storage facilities or your electrical devices. But 99.9, the 3 nines, allows the battery, allows your lithium to be used in every single electric vehicle out there, not just out of Asia, but everything out of North America, and includes crossover and hybrid cars as well. So that's what the difference is. So we were really, really pleased with that announcement back in September of last year. Stock-wise, well, we seem to be recovering a little bit from last year's markets. We have 150 million issued and outstanding. Market caps, fully diluted, we're about 175 million. Market caps around that 210 million. Currently, $31.4 million in the bank, so we're really cashed up. We have enough money to be able to kind of move our project forward to pretty much at the end of the right up to a point of the end of permitting, so where we can make a construction decision. So we don't have to go back to the market and dilute the stock or anything like that. We've got a really solid cash position to carry out everything we want to carry out in 2023 and beyond. Analysts that cover us, Alliance Global Partners and Noble Capital Markets. If you go to the OTC website, you'll be able to download those reports. So, like I said earlier, stock had really come down from the peak of last year. We were trading at a high of $2.20. I think it was $2 and it says 14, but we actually went to $2.40, $2.50, $2.50 or so. But earlier in the year, but then came off mostly because of we had everything from recession, inflation, constant rate hikes. Then, of course, the lockdown in China, all of that had to happen, and really kept our stock suppressed. But that didn't allow us to slow down. We really wanted to kind of push this project forward, despite what the market was doing. So some of the highlights include that we acquired the water permit in 2021, completed a bought financing with PI Financial in February. Within a month later, we commenced our feasibility study with Wood PLC, and then acquired our neighbor's project and incorporated it into our own by May. We then in August we announced positive drill results. We'll talk about that later on, but we ended up finding that the resource on that project was about 1% higher than what we expected, so which helps us out, and having that extra space allows us to kind of stretch our pit design. And in June, we announced positive DLE results of 99.5%, as I said earlier. And September, we confirmed a battery grade purity of 99.94. And we engaged ThyssenKrupp Nucera to kind of come in and design our chlor-alkali plant for our pre-feasibility study in October. And most recently, now we have announced an agreement that we're collaborating with Coke Separation Solutions on helping us with a DLE as we move towards production. So demand for lithium, everybody knows this just keeps going higher and higher and higher and higher, right? Be it lithium hydroxide or lithium carbonate. The key is it's not like the electric vehicles are going to take over the world and we won't use a combustion engine. No, we're always going to need a combustion engine. We're always going to be there, but it's the urban centers that are really turning into electric. You've got I'm in British Columbia, and Vancouver Island introduced its first police car being electric. In France, you've got every taxi is now electric, right? So that's the idea, is that more and more there's a bigger demand in urban centers for turning into electric vehicles, right? So that's this primarily use of lithium, as we see. But it's also used in mobile phones and power tools, and of course in your laptops and computers. So the idea is that even though we had a little bit of a slowdown and demand for lithium during COVID, right now we're seeing, and this is from Benchmark Minerals, they're showing that lithium demand is going to surpass, I think, over 1 million tons of lithium carbonate in the first time for 2025, and you're looking at least 2 million tons of lithium carbonate equivalent to surpass by 2030, and it shows here 3 million by 2033. It just keeps growing. The demand keeps getting out there. But you got to take a step back and say, well, all this lithium demand is great, but where are we getting our lithium from? Well, if you look back and you realize that most lithium comes from either Latin America or Australia, and China, and in Africa as well. But 80%, I think 85% of the world's lithium is owned directly or indirectly by China. That's a point I always make. And China consumes about 80% of that. That's huge. So that means like what's happened is that North America, that's Canada and the United States, have fallen asleep behind a wheel and have now become dependent on foreign energy. So this is not a good place to be, right? And we see this especially with what's happening in Europe with the war in Russia and the Ukraine. So back in 2017, the President of the United States declared lithium a critical mineral, which means if you find it in North America or in the US, it needs to favor domestic sources for the supply chain. So it's got to be used for American cars. Right after that, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau agreed with President Trump and said, if we find it in Canada, we'll keep it in North America. And more recently, not only did President Biden continue on with that agreement, but he took it one step further by putting in the Defense Production Act, which allows he's allowing the United States to give various grants and loans to companies that are looking to move towards electric energy or producing lithium. So this is great, especially for us. So we'll be applying for some of these grants and loans as soon as our feasibility and the plan of operations is complete, right? So that's going to be a very good step for us to take. Three kinds of lithium projects in the world. Most people just they know about lithium, but they don't know where it comes from and kind of how you use it and how you get it out. The most common form is brine operations. You see those predominantly in Latin America. I'm really generalizing here. So you got huge pools of water. It's pretty simple. You evaporate the water, and your lithium kind of stays on top. It's a very inexpensive way to extract lithium. From the ESG side, it's kind of frowned upon because you're evaporating a lot of water, but that's the reality of how we get most of the world's lithium. Number two is hard rock projects, right? Hard rock projects. You get these spodumene concentrates. This is predominantly in Australia. No one does hard rock better than the Aussies do. They do a great job. It's expensive because you've got crushing and grinding and roasting, and all that can be a lot more expensive to extract. However, you get really high grade lithium, and so they're able to make that work. And then the third kind of lithium that's out there is claystone, and that's what we have. Lithium carbon. We have lithium claystone in Nevada. And Nevada has one of the largest areas in the world largest deposits of claystone lithium in the world. So you don't need crushing, you don't need grinding or roasting. So the costs are a lot cheaper, but you don't need to evaporate huge pools of water. So from the environmental side, it's much better as well. Project, like I said earlier, it's in the Esmeralda County and in Nevada, just about 2 hours drive or 3 hours drive from north of Las Vegas, kind of in between Vegas and Reno. And if you take a step back, you take a look at the projects that are there. We are directly adjacent to Albemarle's Silver Peak operation, which is the only producing lithium operation in North America. And if you look at the projects that are around us, there's in Nevada, well, there's only 3 that are the most advanced. Ioneer, Violet Ridge project, feasibility study was completed, pilot plant is operating, and they're attempting to complete the permitting right now. Lithium America, Thacker Pass, they just completed their feasibility last month. Plan of operation, pilot plant is going. That company is doing very, very well. Both of these companies have had, Ioneer recently had $700 million come in from a US loan to help them bring that project to production, subject to permitting. And Lithium America just did a deal with General Motors, who's investing $650 million into their project to get about 20% of their byproduct coming out. So you could see huge, big investments coming into the claystone area. So if anybody says, "Oh, claystone is not really real," well, The United States government's investing 700 million. GM is investing 650 million. So clay is here to stay. As I say, this is the new reality of where lithium, the United States and Canada are going to be getting their lithium from in the near future. So big resource, as I said earlier, about 1.3 billion tons that we have in the reserves category. This gives us a very large mine life of over 40 years. Deposit features are light. I mean, it's a flat deposit, minimal overburden, so it's easy kind of to extract. Again, no blasting, no drilling. It's pretty easy to kind of extract, very leachable. Pre-feasibility numbers. Caution here, this is very forward because these are numbers from 2021. Our feasibility numbers are going to come out in Q2 of this year, so they're going to be different. But we can just see here, as we are still looking to produce 15,000 tons per day for roughly 40 years. And that means that we'll be operating at 15,000 days for 40 years, which means that we would be producing about 30,000 tons per annum. I'm generalizing, it's 27.4. But that capex for that project was 500 million with an opex of 3,000, using a base price of 9,500, and that gave us an NPV of 1 billion. Now, of course, everything has gone up in price with inflation, so you can double this, our capex, to play safe, make it 7, make it 8, make it 900 million. OPEX, we've switched from sulfuric acid to hydrochloric acid, which means sulfur has really gone up 300%. So, it should be cheaper, but then you need more power to produce hydrochloric acid. So it's more power intense. So let's just increase this now from 3,000 to 5,000, right? No matter what you play around with these numbers, once you start playing with the price of your base price for lithium, and let's just be conservative here, right? So let's not use the spot prices of 80,000 or 85, but I believe Lithium America used 24,000. Once you start going between 20 to 30, your back drops down here. Your NPV, has a doubles, if not more, right? So it just gives you an opportunity that this is a very, very rich project, right? So really excited to see the final numbers to come out. Okay, the PFS design assumptions, this map doesn't include the new area that we acquired, but it just shows you that we have got a lot of land and able to kind of put everything in together. So I hope you guys can still hear me. I might have to switch to a phone. The drill results that we put out in, you can look here in the northeast of our property, show that we had about 1 or 2% higher, which was good. And this allows the pit, this is the old pit design highlighted in pink. This means that the pit can now stretch longer and be a little bit more shallow. Okay, this is our lithium extraction facility on the Amargosa Valley. Everything that's been going on for a year now is right on target. We've produced positive results in our DLE, achieved really good moisture content, less than 40%, and then the most important part is that we ended up producing 99.94% lithium carbonate. Extraction process, I won't go too much here, but try to show you from a picture later on. ThyssenKrupp Nucera, they've come on board helping us design the chlor-alkali plant. For those who don't know them, who ThyssenKrupp is, it's one of the world's biggest chemical engineering companies. So having them on board is fantastic. More recently, we've now collaborated with Koch Technology Solutions. They've come on board, this was announced last week, they've come on board to help us test key components at our pilot plant. They're going to help provide engineering designs and bring our costs down. All of this is going to be done in conjunction, apart from our feasibility study. So we're not slowing down our feasibility study from this. We're doing this kind of in tandem. The program is set to commence this quarter. Would be great if we could get it done, if we were able to commence it at the end of the month, but let's just say this quarter for this sometime in Q1. And it's not an expensive program. I think we're only spending about a couple $100,000, so something under $500,000 to get this program started. It's so it's not an expensive program. But what it's showing once again is Century Lithium, even though we're adjacent to the only producing lithium operation in North America, Albemarle, we are cozying up and having nice relationships with Koch, relationships with ThyssenKrupp, with other people as well. So, and it shows you that some of the biggest companies, be it chemical or engineering, are very interested in what's happening in Nevada in the Claystone projects. This is our pictures of our Claystone bags that's been crushed. Those bags are about a ton. We process about a ton a day. They run through a machine for between 24 hours to 7 days. So far, as we crush it, we put it through the extraction process. We extract about 85% of the lithium from the claystone. That solution then goes through the DLE process, which we able to recover 99.5% of the lithium. And then that gets sent over to an evaporator where we evaporate it and turn it into lithium carbonate. These are the tanks you can see here where the concentrated lithium solution goes out, and it goes to a tank similar to the one that we have there on site that we evaporate to create lithium carbonate. That's what it looks like, right? It's a little white powder, right? So now the goal is to work, we're working with Saltwork Technologies to produce lithium carbonate on site by the end of the year. ESG, you cannot downplay this. Downplay this at all. This is probably the most important part of our project. We want to show here that we've completed initial baseline studies and archaeological studies, and there's no indigenous artifacts we found, or there's no historic battles that have occurred on this land. So far everything seems to be good. There's no endangered species, endangered plants that grow on our project. It's pretty much flat desert with some desert foliage and lithium claystone kind of right on surface. So we've designed this project to minimize as much as we can the environmental and cultural impacts. I said earlier that we're going to be using this chloralkali plant, which will be more power intense. What we're trying to do with that is use the power of solar energy, if not geothermal energy, from a piece of land that we've leased that's nearby, and be able to kind of offset some of the peak hours of using power to solar and geothermal, just to reduce our carbon footprint as much as we can. And water-wise, like I said earlier, we've got a water our water permit here, and we do recycle about 100% of our water gets done. So we're very committed to work with local communities. That's very, very important with us. Moving forward, first half of the year, we'll have the feasibility study will be complete. Just after that, we should complete the plan of operations. We're hoping to get that sometime in early third quarter. Then once the plan of operations complete, we'll initiate our permitting. It's going to be either EA or EIS. And then the goal by the end of the year is to produce lithium carbonate on site. In the meantime, when the plan of operations is done and the feasibility study is done, we're able to look at various federal grants and loans that we can access. We've been working with a group now for over a year that's kind of pointed out and identified which grants and loans are available, and so we're very excited to see how those will come to play out. And of course, looking at strategic partnerships. And by this I mean we're not looking to sell the project. We're looking to joint venture the project, very similar to what Ioneer did with Sibanye Stillwater, right? So somebody come in for 50% or take over 50% of the project for 50% of the perhaps of the offtake, right? But to and pay down 50% of what the capex will be, something like that. So this will all kind of make sense as soon as we know what our capex and opex will look like for 2000 for the project. And in summary, Century Lithium, we're one of the third most advanced project in the state of Nevada. Currently completing a feasibility study with over a 40-year mine life. We've confirmed battery grade lithium carbonate with a purity of over 99.94%. Our pilot plant program is ongoing, and we've already achieved lithium recovery of over 99.5% from our DLE. And then we're in Nevada. You can't get a much better mining jurisdiction in the state of Nevada. And with that, I'll switch to any questions that people might have. Let's see here. There's a few. All right, I'm going to try to read some of these. Okay, just bear with me as I'm adjusting my screen here. All right, capex for the mine could be 600 million, assuming debt and equity. At what price would Century need to raise capital? We won't be looking at raising capital at these prices at all. So don't think that we're going to look into start raising capital at $1.40. Everything we're probably, once we know what the capex is going to be, the goal will be to get a strategic partner to come into the project, which could take half the capital or a third of the capital. Who knows what the agreement's going to be? Then we need to look at loans, grants, etc. Once we have all that, we'll know. Let's just hypothetically say, Albemarle doesn't want to do anything. Tesla says no. We're having some issues. There's always an offtake agreement that we can do. That offtake agreement is the last thing we want to kind of get an agreement on. We want to first focus on a strategic partner, then and at the same time start look at the grants and loans, and then go from there. Okay. Next question here. Just bear with me as I'm trying to read them. How do you plan to increase institutional ownership of the stock? Furthermore, why are more insiders not buying? Bill is the only insider buying lately. Okay, good question. There are periods when insiders cannot buy. That's true. And sometimes we're kind of in the blackout periods, right? So we can't. The board is fairly new, and they have not had a chance to acquire a lot of stock off the market, and it's quite common for most boards not to pick up stock and buy stock, especially on more advanced projects. But I agree. I mean, I love to see our board and management continue to buy outside of build. I think that's a good thing, and I'll make sure I'll pressure them as much as I can. And in regards to increasing institutional ownership, well, we're trying everything we can to make that happen. Last year was a period of getting institutions not to sell, as opposed for we knew they weren't buying. They were really risk averse and only focusing on projects that were turnkey operations. My job was to make sure that they know who we are and what we're doing, despite the stock coming down, that they hang on to their position, and we did that very successful. We're very successful at that. So you notice our stock might have come off, but it came off on really, really low volume, right? I don't have much time left. I'm going to try another quick question here. It says here, your LCE footing and the entire cost for co-collaboration. Okay, how's the cost for the co-collaboration is roughly around 200,000, as I said. Why doesn't the billion company pay for that? I don't know, but it's not that much for us to pay. What is anticipated for cost of processing lithium hydroxide with saltworks? Well, we could do lithium hydroxide, but we did lithium carbonate so well. I mean, we've achieved such good results. I think we don't really need to do anything to go anymore I think that's pretty good. I think I've got like 30 seconds left, if not less. Can you speak on why Century has decided not to get an offtake agreement before the JV? Yeah, an offtake agreement before the JV is basically, selling your goose before you've got the egg. So you kind of want to get a deal on the project, right, and use your offtake as leverage. Use that agreement as leverage to get the best quantity contract for your offtake. Besides, if say you do an offtake agreement with Ford, then means that a company like Tesla wouldn't be interested in you, right? So those are the kind of things we're thinking about. I've got 5 seconds left, everybody. Thanks for joining me, and I hope I've answered